What is up, guys, and welcome to the special episode of Guarani Vision, the first ever podcast dedicated to Paraguayan football in English. As always, I'm Roberto Rojas, and joining me are my three great co-hosts, Fede Perez, Ralph Hanna, and Maria Britos. And guys, here we are yet again. We're all wearing the Albert Roja. We're here on another international break, another World Cup qualifying process as Paraguay look to continue their quest to qualify for the World Cup in North America, as they have two games in Argentina against the world champions and then hosting Bolivia at the Defensores next week. And what better way to assess it with all three of us here? And yeah, it's going to be big. It's obviously a huge deal, especially as we're coming in really on a month, essentially, when Paraguay were awarded the World Cup. They're going to be playing the World Cup in Paraguay in the next, I'm trying to think now, 7 years in 2030. But nevertheless, we still want to go to one beforehand, as this team from now a new manager in Dani Garnedo looks to achieve that. So let's get everyone's reactions to this. Let's go to Fede first. Certainly being there in Paraguay, it's been an interesting last couple of weeks, I would say, Fede, for football in itself. And now all this attention is shifted towards the national team. I just wanted to know your vibes and your feelings 48 hours before that game against Argentina in Buenos Aires.
Yeah, hi Roberto, hi to Ralph, hi to Maria, hi to everyone that's always following these episodes, these preview episodes that we're doing. Just as always, Paraguay is playing in this qualifiers now against Argentina and then Bolivia. Well, the hype is there. I think it was very important to press that reset button from the FA and bring in another coach, reset the players also in a certain way. That we have new players. We're going to read the list in a bit, and there are new faces. There are players that people wanted to see, like Alan Barreira, just to throw a name out there. So there are people that are looking into these two games like, hey, we might see something different. And we have a whole bunch of injured players that were on the first two games that are not going to be available for these upcoming two matches. So we'll see what Garnedo does really with the team, what his strategy is going to be behind it. I know Ralph has been on this coach several times on this show when he was managing Libertad, so I want to hear his take on what's coming up for Garnedo. He has a big task ahead of him, but when you set that reset button on a locker room like this one, I think it's just great, Roberto. I think it comes right on time, and I'm really looking forward to these two games. I'm really looking forward to the Daniel Garnedo era that starts right now.
It really is going to be very interesting. And Ralph, I wanted to obviously go into you, like Fede had mentioned, because normally when teams do change coaches during these processes, it can be a bit unstable. Usually, we're accustomed to it, as following this team for so many years, that we are prone to changes when things aren't going right. But in this case, the fact that it was done early, and while many people can view it as like a crisis, saying, oh, what's Paraguay doing? Why are they changing their coach, literally 2 games out of an 18-game process? You look at the circumstances that happened beforehand, and then you look at who comes in, and you think, okay, it's a more sensible choice because Dani Garnedo obviously has had the experience managing in Paraguay. He's won titles. He knows a lot of these players. Some of them he even gave him his debut. So it makes perfect sense in a way that coming into this game, and I guess what a better test than to play against the world champions in their home ground. It's a good opportunity and to show his capability as a national team manager.
Yeah, I think what you're saying about it makes sense. You have now a coach that has not just coached in Paraguay for a long time, but he knows like a lot of these players because he was at Olimpia and he was at Libertad, also Guarani and Sol, but Olimpia and Libertad, two of the biggest clubs. They've produced a lot of players. Some of them are abroad now. So I think he already he comes in maybe knowing quite a lot of the players, and I think that gives him a good foundation. Whereas with Barros Schelotto coming in from afar and trying to implement his own method, and it wasn't working because they weren't getting the results, I think it was hard to get the players on board. So now you have this, like Fede calls it, the reset, and I think people will be I think the players themselves will be quite happy to work with him. But the big question is, how do we do it tactically? Like, is he going to be up to the task now to win? I don't know. Let's say we need to win like maybe 8 games of the remaining, right? Or 8 or 9. Like, will we be able to do that? Because it's not the same as the league. The league kind of format, like I keep saying, is like these are like you just get 2 games and then another month 2 games and then in March 2 games, and you just have to be ready for these one-on-one kind of battles and tactical setup. So let's see. I mean, I think Argentina's a really good test, like you said, but I think for me, I'm really interested in the Bolivia game. Like, what are we going to do against Bolivia? We can't afford to draw like we did last time. We can't afford to draw like we did against Peru. So we have to go out there, and I think that's going to be the real statement.
And Maria, obviously, you're someone that obviously we've had, during this time as co-host here, that you've always been critical of our managers, that you've always even been critical of our players. And I think one of the things that you've always said was that Paraguay needed to go back to their roots, in this case, a Paraguayan manager. They haven't done that this time, but they were able to get someone that is familiar. Like I mentioned beforehand, he's managed at Guarani, Olimpia, Libertad, 8 titles in 3 clubs in a span of, I think, 7 years, something like that. So that's an incredible track record. And so I think more than anything, there has to be some sort of hope in this case. Like, yes, I think people will obviously be pessimistic with this side because of results and whatnot. But I think, like even Ralph had said, like, yes, I think the Bolivia game will definitely be a game where you have to be at your very best. And if you shows the capacity of how you are as a manager and what you show to your players. But I even think with this game against Argentina, I mean, there's a lot to play here. Again, like I said, world champions, Copa America champions. They haven't lost I think they only lost 1 game in 3 years. They still have Lionel Messi. It's in Buenos Aires. And of course, the coach is Argentine. So you have all of that boiling in, and you would think, why not? Why not? That kind of new manager bounce. You see that sometimes with teams that they just have like a new switch on when they get something that we'll get into predictions later on, but I just don't understand how maybe Paraguay can just go to this game and think, hey guys, look, we're a new team. We want to show that we can go and compete, and let's take the game. And Libertad and his time at Libertad and Olimpia and Guarani has shown that they like to take the games. They don't like to be conservative and track back. I think in this case, they want to go and, who knows, snatch a result over there in Argentina.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is one of the games that you're probably not gonna win it, but you, like you said, you want to go there and you want to show everyone, look, we're competitive. Look, we can play against the world champions and make a good game out of it and give them something to talk about. You might get some kind of a result, maybe like a draw, but I don't think we are expecting a win. What we do want to show, like I said, is just that we are back in the game, that we can do this, show, I guess, our next opponents like Bolivia that, hey, we're not a weak team anymore. We can do this, and we're gonna give Argentina a really good game that they won't have to that they won't walk all over us. So yeah, it's definitely a lot of expectations in the sense of moral, and in the sense of we have a new coach. We want to show what he's capable of. He wants to show what he's capable of in a national team. He's done it. He's shown what he's capable of with clubs, with Paraguayan clubs. He's won titles. He's been in different Paraguayan clubs, but now it's a different task. It's a different responsibility having to do with the national team. And yeah, I'm not too mad about this choice. Out of all the choices, I think they made a good decision to hire Garnero, because, like I said, like you guys said as well, he has experience in this country, and I think that's what we needed. We needed someone that knows our capabilities, that knows our players, which is the most important part, and knows our culture. So that's all I think that we needed, a morale boost. And I think, and I feel like the players understand this, that after what they went through, even though it was only 2 games, they're coming back, and they're gonna give their all, because look, they had to go to a new coach, fire Schelotto for this to happen, and I don't think they want to waste that whole situation and just show off what they can really do, because I do believe in this team. I think that we are more capable of than what we've been doing. we just haven't been able to give all of our all, in a sense.
Yeah, and of course that's all going to go down to these players, which I'll mention right now, as Fede had mentioned. Some of the players, and I'll give you the list at the moment for those that don't know. For goalkeepers, it's kind of the same names. Carlos Coronel of the New York Red Bulls is back. Santiago Rojas and Juan Espinola. So those are three names that are going to be in there. For the defenders, you see a mix. You see some of the same names: Gustavo Gomez, Junior Alonso, Fabián Lanuena, Robert Rojas, Omar Alderete. Then you have some new names. You have Santiago Arzamendia, who is back. You have Alberto Espinola, someone who had played at Cedro for some time and was even the starting right back for Paraguay. He's playing right now in Colón in Santa Fe in Argentina. He's back. And then the following: Mateo Gamarra, Ivan Ramirez, and Matias Espinosa. In the midfield, you have obviously the main guy, Miguel Miron, back on the squad, Richard Sanchez, Matías Villasanti, Cacu Romero, Matias Rojas, Brian Ojeda, and Matias Galarza, and some three new names. From Paraguay, you have Alvaro Campuzano, someone who's had a really good time at Libertad, and two surprises. The first one is the return of Gaston Jimenez. Gaston Jimenez obviously is someone that was very, very poor under the Berizzo era, had a lot of criticism, and hasn't been called back since. I don't think he even got called once during the Barros Schelotto reign. He is back. He's doing well at Chicago Fire. They're going to make the playoffs in MLS. And Damian Bobadilla, the 22-year-old, he's making his first ever call up from Cerro Porteño, a really a wild card. No one had expected this name to come in. And the forwards, the one that are getting the most talking points. Obviously, Gabriel Avalos and Ramon Sosa are the two names that were there last time. Obviously, Ramon Sosa was someone that kind of became the X factor, was the one that everyone talked about because of his performances in the two games. But we have three new names, guys. Antonio Sanabria. Tony Sanabria is back. There had been some discussion about whether or not he should even play for the national team anymore. He didn't appear a lot during the Barros Schelotto realm. He is back. I think this is a good thing for him, given his form at Torino. You have also Adam Barreiro, someone that has really been talked about as someone who has not been called up. This is his first ever call up, or at least, he'd make his debut. If he does a fantastic form at San Lorenzo at the moment. And Hector Villalba, Tito Villalba, the player that has been kind of really standing out in Libertad. I think he's the player with the most assists in all of Paraguayan players for this year. So this is Fede, I think, a list. And, unfortunately, we do have some injuries that won't be able to make this squad. You have the inclusion of Andres Cubas, a player that, was really good in the first few games in last month in the qualifiers. He's not there due to injury. No Christian Paredes as well, and no Diego Gomez. So those three names will not be there for the call-ups for the games against Argentina and Bolivia. But honestly, I think it's a really good side. I really like, and for the first time I say that in a while. And yeah, obviously injuries happen, like even with Enciso, who actually traveled to Paraguay. He was pictured with the team there. It's kind of a morale boost, which I think is fantastic, because I think you need that. But I generally don't have any issues with this squad. For the first test, or I guess, of Dani Ganerdo's qualifications as a manager for this team, I think he passed the first one in calling up the right players, and especially some names that a lot of people had asked for to be on the squad.
Yeah, Maria mentioned it several times. Rob also did, and it's a different job. It's not the same thing managing an every day-to-day squad than having just to pick the players, especially when you have all these alternatives, all these problems with the injured players, especially players that you had already picked and you thought that were probably going to start on your team, like Diego Gomez, like Christian Paredes. I thought these players were going to be important. I thought that, Garnero was already planning the game, was already imagining the game with these players on the pitch. But yeah, this is part of the national team life, or the everyday, I would even say. These are problems that he's going to have with many players. I mean, we all wanted Julio and Cesar to be here for these games during the last couple of months, but Julio's not here for the games. He's here with the team. He's here with the players. It's great to see him there with the squad. I think nobody knows him better than Garnero. That's why he was probably invited there. If it was another coach, I don't know if he was going to get that call, but since it's Garnero, everyone that was in Libertad or had an opportunity once under his wing probably has the key now to Ipanema, which is where they practice. I think a lot of players that were that he managed at a time have even probably an advantage over others, especially for these first 4 games. Ralph talked about the calendar, and if you see the calendar right now, you have these 4 games at the rest of the year, and then you don't have anything at the beginning of next year. You have Copa America, so then you have like a month to really work, probably on the base of players that you really gonna use during the whole process, because he's gonna be here during the whole process. So right now, you got to take the emergency away. You got to look for players that you know that are going to respond. You got to look at players that you know that are going to do well. And in that sense, I'm kind of surprised with Gaston Jimenez, to be honest with you guys. And right away, I remember I wrote on the group chat, has anyone seen Gaston Jimenez lately? Because, ever since he left Paraguay, or ever since he left the national team, nobody even wanted to mention his name here. I mean, even people here. I mean, I don't want to say anything bad about him, because I don't. It's not up to me. But people were taunting him, people were trolling him here. I mean, hey, you're Gaston Jimenez when you had a bad game. I mean, people were saying those kind of things here in Paraguay, because he really did not do well, and he didn't show up where a lot of people thought that he was going to show up, like a playmaker, like you were seeing from Kaku Gamarra lately on the team. I don't know, just to compare a player that was also nationalized or was born in Argentina, but now plays for the Paraguayan team because of a family relative. So you have those players, the players that are coming back, and Gaston probably got the call because of the injuries. He was probably not going to be here. The same with Damian Bobadilla, who's just 20 years old. He gets his first call up. It's probably great for him, great inspirational moment for him, but he shouldn't be there. I mean, if other players were available, he was probably not going to be called up. And I'm happy with Adam Barreiro. I'm happy with Tito Villalba, because these are players that I think have been on fire these last season, and I think we need to take advantage of that. We need players that can bring that fire to the squad. We need players that can take the challenge of going up against Argentina and not caring that they're going to play against the world champion. They want to show up in those kind of games. That's the attitude I want to see in this game against Argentina. And Tony Sanabria, I'm going to leave that to Maria, but is he back for good? Or is he back just for these games? Is he back just to see if the mood is right? If they're going to use him now? Because if he's subbing the first game, he's going to get angry again, and he's not going to come back. I mean, that's the big question around some of these players. Also, Roberto, it's a new process. It's a new manager, but we know these players. We know some of these guys, and they haven't shown the compromise. They haven't shown what people want to see from them, especially on the pitch. What do you want to say, Maria? Say something about Tony, please.
He needs to. Yeah, I mean, like I think as well.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not too sure about his attitude or his form right now, but I'm definitely sure of his new haircut and his new look. So we'll see something yellow running around.
he looks like a mature Beckham now. Have you seen him, Maria? He looks like a more mature Beckham now.
I know. I'm kind of digging it. So we'll see. Maybe that helps him in the playing field.
I mean, I was gonna add one of the players that I think we're really missing is Cubas, that you guys were saying. In terms of like MLS stats, I think he's second in interceptions for midfielders in the MLS. He's been having a great season. The closest Paraguayan player looking at those same stats is actually Ojeda, which is interesting. So Brian Ojeda being called up, maybe we start to see him play, because remember, he broke through with Garnero. They know each other from Olympia. He gave him his chance there. So he's a player he likes. He has Campuzano in there, but I think Campuzano's going to maybe be used more if he plays, will be against Bolivia, because Campuzano's a great player in terms of moving the ball around, very technical. But I don't know if we'd want him there against Argentina. And then I think the big question talking about Sanabria is, do you play Sanabria, who's not on good form? Because Sanabria, because he tried to get the move away from Torino in the summer, Torino haven't used him much. I think he's just appearing now and again off the bench. Last season, of course, he was starting and he was scoring lots of goals. But maybe this has come like a few months too late in a way, whereas you have Adam Barreiro, who's on great form. And for me, Adam Barreiro is one of those players. By the way, he's the brother of Fede Barreiro, who we've interviewed on here. So if anybody wants to check out that interview, you can go there. He's a younger brother. But Adam's always been like ridiculously confident. That's always been his thing, to the point that it frustrated people a lot because, you know, sometimes he should pass the ball and he doesn't. He wants to dribble past everybody. But I wonder if that's the better player to have in this game against Argentina, who won't be afraid to be in the Monumental with 85,000 people. He won't be afraid that they're facing the world champions. He's going in with no doubts. Whereas Sanabria, as we just talked about, I think sometimes his mentality is he's not always 100% because of different things going kind of on around with him. So I'm really interested to see where they go with that, because I think it's between those two. I think it's going to be either Barreiro or Sanabria that gets that kind of leading role there.
I think it's an interesting question to really have, because I think you also have these issues, not issues, but also with these things with, like you said, there are a lot of these players who are Argentine born. We had mentioned Gaston Jimenez, but also Caco Romero, Tito Villalba. You know, there is that special feeling of playing for a different national team that isn't the country of birth, that kind of, in a sense, rejected you. I'm not saying that obviously in a sense of like cruelty, but it's true. Like, you know, you decided to play for a different team, and now you're playing against the country that essentially made your career. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how these guys deal with it, especially like you said, Caco Romero, who is someone that usually on his day always performs to the levels of what he is given when he's on the pitch, you know. And I think that's going to be a very interesting part. Like, how did this happen? How will this be judged? And I think, Ralph, going to you on this one, I think the main name that everyone is going to be focused on, even in Argentina, is Miguel Miron. Someone that has obviously didn't perform to the extent that we wanted to see last month. Then come this month, scores in the Champions League against PSG, man of the match as well, and scoring goals, of course, for a Newcastle side. And I think he scored, 3 goals so far for Newcastle this season. So it's a good start for him as Newcastle continue to judge around different competitions. But that's always been the big question. When will we see this Almiron, which we've seen him obviously score some really good goals from outside the box, obviously scoring against some of the best goalkeepers in the world, like we saw with Donnarumma. So I think this is the case for him now to really step it up. And, there had been some talks about whether or not he should even start. I disagree. I think irregardless of his form, he's still a top player that should play week in and week out for Paraguay if given the chance. But it's going to be a huge target on his back if he doesn't perform, because it's been a while since he's been able to really showcase his talents. And if I mean, against Argentina, yeah, maybe an exception could be made, but it's Bolivia. He has to get it from the get-go, honestly.
Yeah, although I would say I'd be more comfortable with Almiron against Argentina. He always plays quite well against them, mainly because they're going to leave in space in behind, and that's always been Almiron's strength. Sorry, running into the space, and when he has kind of the defense, he's like going past them rather than a team playing with a low block. So I'm just trying to remember the last game against Argentina. Obviously, he got given that really defensive role by Berizzo, and he was doing so much kind of ball recovery. But he's good at that too. So I mean, that's not necessarily an issue. But I think in the Argentina game, he'll have even more space and maybe more chances against Bolivia. When you said if he shouldn't be in the lineup, yeah, I guess the question now is coming. There's kind of two questions. One is, well, Tito Villalba is playing so well, so he can perform a similar role. But then also you have Caco Romero is a different type of player, but then he operates in the same space. I think it's hard to kind of find those two playing together. So that's maybe where you're thinking of who would play if Almiron doesn't. But I'm with you there. I think he should definitely start, again in this game against Argentina, because he has the capability on the break to really do some damage. The question is, can he finally get a goal? He has very few goals with Paraguay. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's I think
7 and 51. 7 and 51.
7 and 51, and I think 1 in qualifiers, maybe the one against Ecuador. I'm trying to think of another.
Correct. Yeah, that's right.
This is the thing, like, can he score in the qualifiers away from home, which he's yet to do? Although, can Paraguay score a goal? Because that's what we've been struggling to do. So it's there's a lot at stake. But I think in Almiron especially, I would definitely have him in that game against Argentina.
I'm not waiting for Miguel Almiron to score that much, just because along his career he hasn't been a top scorer. But I mean, maybe make a couple more assists on that stat sheet, and more plays from him, especially those plays where he makes the difference, like we saw from Ramon Sosa several times against Peru. I mean, a lot of people were shocked because of that, because Ramon Sosa kind of outshined the Premier League player that everybody has been waiting from him to be the star of this team, and he has never been that star. So I don't know. We even saw with Celoto, they brought him in because he knew Gustavo Gomez very well, because he managed at a certain time also Miguel Almiron. That's not going to be the situation with this new coach, with Daniel Garnero, who is bringing in also Tito Villalba, who plays in that same place. I don't know if he wants to bring in competition for Almiron, but what Roberto was saying is very true. A lot of journalists, a lot of people here are saying, hey, we should maybe sit Almiron down for a couple games, try with another player, see if maybe that brings up his level in the national team, or takes some sort of pressure from him, because he hasn't done well with that pressure. And Garnero's going to have to do something about this, just to bring out the best Miguel Almiron in the national team, which we still waiting for, Roberto. We waited in the last process. We waited in these last first two games, and he didn't show up. He had several opportunities to score, especially against Peru, and he didn't score. So, yeah, I'm waiting for more assists from him, especially than goals, to be honest. But I totally agree with Rob. I think he's going to have those phases against Argentina. He's going to show that speed. He's going to show that Premier League style. The Monumental, I think, is going to help him. That ground is just perfect for his kind of playing style. So I think we're going to see several plays, long runs from him against Argentina.
Yeah, I think that with Almiron, maybe he hasn't deserved it to be, a starter, or even, playing for quite some time now. He hasn't shown or what he's capable of. Like you guys said, we're still waiting for him to make goals, to make some kind of move. And you just don't see that kind of energy that he puts in Newcastle. You don't see it in our national team. And why is that? We don't really know. Maybe there's a lack of motivation there. Something is off, in the field for him. Maybe he doesn't have the connection with the players, with the team. But it's true what a lot of people are saying. A lot of journalists, maybe it's time to put him aside for now, see what else works best. Because we can't just keep on waiting on someone that's not giving us what we really want. At some point, you're gonna have to make decisions, and you're gonna have to make changes. And this is what Garnero has to take into consideration. So yeah, with Almiron, I'm sure he's gonna start with the Argentina game, because this is a big game. But for Bolivia, probably, the game that we do expect to win, we need someone to actually score. And as of right now, that's not Almiron.
I think it's going to be very interesting to see how it goes. And even for some other players, like you said, a lot of these players haven't stepped up to the ability. Gustavo Gomez, who, rightly so, did very well in the first two games last month. I think he's also someone where, we all expect him to be that kind of player that he is at Palmeiras. The same thing goes with some other players that have been here for quite some time and have performed at club level, but just haven't been able to do it on the national team. So it's a lot of pressure on these guys, not just obviously on Almiron being the main guy at the Premier League, playing in the best league. Yeah, he's obviously going to be the one with most pressure beyond anyone else, but you still got the captain. You still got a lot of these players that are there. So I think this opportunity in Fede, I mean, you look in this kind of situation, if they can perform to the extent that they can against Argentina, and it doesn't take a lot to convince us, to be honest. Like, look, we are a likable bunch, and look, if we win, hell yeah, then that's great. But it's all about bringing in that effort. And yes, as Ralph had mentioned, score. That's been one of the main issues that we've had. They haven't been scoring, and we need to get it from somewhere.
I don't think it's going to be a pretty match, guys. I don't know what you guys are thinking. I'm not expecting a pretty match. I'm not expecting for Paraguay to be elegant with the ball. I'm actually expecting a kind of a match like we talked with Santi Bausa, who previewed and was with us just a day ago. You guys can hear that episode also. But I'm expecting a brawl out there. I'm expecting some kind of fight. I'm expecting those those games maybe from the 90s. We got to make them uncomfortable. I mean, they're the world champions. We're the ones that are going there. They're pretty much on vacations. I was looking at the images of them going to Argentina. People were going crazy in the airport. And these guys they looked like they were going on vacations. They got the pressure off their shoulders. They're on a different level right now, and we're the ones that have that pressure. So I want to see that fight from Paraguay. I want to see Paraguay play this game like it's a final, even though it's the first game, and it's probably going to be very different. This lineup that Garnero's going to put from the one that we're going to see in a couple of months. I think there's going to be a lot of strategy behind this lineup, behind this game in particular, because you're going up against probably the best team in South America. Well, the results show it. It's not Brazil right now. It's Argentina, the team to beat in South America, Roberto.
I mean, best team in the world, rightly so. I mean, like I said, only one loss in 3 years. It's an incredible form that they've been in, and yeah, I mean, like heck, if we're gonna be the team that does it, we might as well do it, because, like you said, if they're a side that is on a high, it has to go down someday. They can't always be on that high, and I think it'd be nice to beat them, especially because, and we'll get into the historical factor in a bit. We have been able to beat them. This isn't something that it's impossible to do. No, it can be done. And these games that we've had always with them have always been tough historical rivals for a reason. Looking at the stats real quick, I wanted to go into that. The Argentina record is relatively, it's actually a decent one for an away form. 10 games, 1 win, 3 losses, but 6 draws. Only 2 losses in Buenos Aires, in Argentina, in the last 50 years. That's an incredible form for a team that, isn't exactly one of the big giants. Even teams like Brazil haven't been able to get a good record like that, or even other teams in South America. So I expect a really tight game, and I guess we can go into the predictions real quick. I'll go to Ralph on this one. Big game, obviously, back at the Monumental. They actually have a really decent record. The last time that they played was in Buenos Aires, but it was in La Bombonera. Before that, it was in Córdoba, where they got those wins. The historic first ever win in Argentina. But before that, draw, and draw. So yeah, I mean, I honestly, like, I think it wouldn't be out of the question to rule a same result for that. But floor is yours. How do you see this game between Argentina and Paraguay in Buenos Aires?
I definitely think it's going to be a very tight game. I can't really see, even though I do have my doubts about Garnero, I don't think he's going to go all out attack against the world champions. So I think we're going to have a very tight game. Is in Paraguay's favor to kind of break it up and make it difficult. One thing I do feel where we struggle a bit is, and this is where we struggled in the game in the Bombonera, was against DePaul. When DePaul came on, if you remember, he comes on as a sub. That really changed the game, and he has the physicality that kind of match Paraguay, and that's where we found things difficult. We're going to rely, I think, a lot on Villasanti as somebody to try and break up the play, and everything points to a very scrappy game. I think I'll say maybe it'll be a 0-0 draw, and we still won't get our goal, but we'll get away with a point.
Maria, I mean, this is the game everyone is looking for. They have it circled on their calendars. Like, players tend to step it up. Do you agree with Ralph's assessment? Are you a bit more positive, a bit more negative? What says you?
No, I go with what Ralph's saying. I think a 0-0 draw will be a win for us. I think everyone's also expecting, for us to lose badly. Paraguay, who hasn't been doing so good, versus the world champions. So yeah, I think what they need to show here, like I said earlier, is courage and a better morale than they did the last time around. So yeah, 0-0.
Fede, I mean, this is also a special game for you because you have your Argentine connections. You live there. You have that kind of root. So you know better than all of us here what it's like to play in Argentina, that kind of mindset. Even for them, as much as obviously they've won all this kind of games, they respect us. Santi even said, they consider us our bogey team. So there is that level of respect. But for them, they always want to win every game, and we want to cause that surprise. What says you for that game at the Monumental on Thursday?
Yeah, that part that you said, it's true. It's very in my house, the game. Yeah, the group chat, the family group chat is going off this week. It happens with a lot of people here in Paraguay, right? We're very close to Argentina, so a lot of families here actually.
And vice versa as well. Paraguayans that live in Argentina.
Yeah, it is a very family thing here. Even in the house, the phone goes off all the time because we got the group chat going on. I have Argentinian family members, just like everybody does, or a lot of people do actually here in Paraguay. Same with Paraguayans that live in Argentina that are probably gonna live it in a special way. So I'm really looking forward to this match because it's the world champion. They are the best team, like I said before in South America. They are the team to beat. I would love it if we are the team to do that. I don't think we have enough right now. That's why we changed the coach. We don't have a starting team. I think Garnero is going to have a good strategy in the first half, but it's going to break away. It's going to break out in the second half, and Argentina are going to come out of it maybe with a free kick from Messi or an individual play, something like that. I'm just imagining the game from that point of view. I hope Alan Barreiro is the MVP, but to be honest, I'm going to dream with Gaston Jimenez from here till Thursday because that's the name that I was not waiting for. So it's on Garnero's shoulder for Gaston Jimenez to be the MVP against Argentina.
Says you. What's your score prediction in this one? You gotta get a good score on this one.
Yeah, Argentina 1-0. They're barely gonna win.
It's tough. It really is tough. I mean, like there are a lot of things, but I am a fan of history. I do feel like these guys will step it up when it needs to. I will say, and all you guys are saying 0 goals, 0-0s, 1-0 losses. I think we break that. I think we're gonna break it. I think we score first. I think we're gonna score somehow off a set piece or something, some really good lead that would allow us all to dream of a possible historic result yet again. But like Fede had mentioned, I think Argentina do break through in the second half from somewhere, maybe from Messi, Garnacho, whoever it may be. But I think ultimately Paraguay leave Buenos Aires with a point. 1-1 draw for me, which I think would be like Maria mentioned, a win for us. But a team that we have bigger obligations to beat, and I'm going to go to Fede on this one first, is Bolivia. The last time we played against these guys, it was a 2-2 draw. Really disappointing results. We had gone into this record with a perfect 100% record. We had won every single game against Bolivia in a home World Cup qualifier, and our first points were dropped in 2020 in that 2-2 draw. I don't think personally the Lightning will strike twice again for Bolivia, but what are your thoughts for this game against La Verde? Against a manager who obviously has also managed in Paraguay before, Gustavo Costas. He is familiar with these guys. He's familiar with Dani Garnero. They faced each other multiple times as well. So what says you?
Out of the games that I saw in those first 2 matches, out of all the teams in South America, they are the worst team. They do not look prepared for these qualifiers. We have to beat them any way we can. And I think it's going to be like a 3-1, maybe a 2-0, something like that. I think it's going to be a 3-1. I'm going to go with a 3-1. For us, obviously.
Of course, as you should. Like it's Ralph. I mean, personally, I think Garnero is going to be more under pressure for that game rather than Argentina because I think we have the obligation to win and we need to score. What says you for this game against Bolivia?
Yeah, but Bolivia is in crisis. I mean, the league is suspended at the moment because of betting allegations, and like Fede says, the team just haven't really looked kind of up for it. Even in the game that they played in La Paz, they didn't really seem to be that strong. So I really think we can win and win quite comfortably. I remember I think it was a Copa America game. We won about 4-0. So I'm gonna go for 4-0.
Maria, I mean, they have Marcelo Martins Moreno. He's played in Paraguay before. He knows some of these guys, like I said, but I can't see them getting anything out of this one. I think what we saw a few years ago was just a fluke result, shot in the dark, a strike of lightning, 1 in a million. I don't see this happening again, honestly. What says you?
I think we're definitely winning. Not sure if we're gonna see a lot of goals. Like Ralph is saying 4-0. But yes, I do think it might be 2-0. Definitely goals from us, no goals from Bolivia. So yeah, a win for us.
This is a poor Bolivia side. I still think they find a way to score, but I think we do are in agreement and say that Paraguay will pick up their 3 points, and they put them in a good position to go into the qualifying process, still in the fight for it. I'm gonna say 3-1 Paraguay. 3-1 Paraguay over there, and yeah, 4 points out of 2 games, and that would be 5 points out of 4 games, which is it's a decent result. We have to see what happens in in the other South American countries where some teams maybe have to do some favors for us to be in a better position. But I think if they can snatch a win and then obviously some sort of point in Buenos Aires, I think that's all you can ask for. And I think it's a perfect good step for Gani Garnero's time here as the national team manager. So really looking forward to it. I can't wait to speak about it afterwards next week when we when we review these games, and obviously next month with the next qualifiers to close out the year, as we always do here at Guarani Vision. For myself, Roberto Rojas, Fede Perez, Maria Britos, and Raul Hanna, thank you so much for listening in. See you soon.